welcome to the 11th Annual Johnny Pacheco Latin Music and Jazz Festival at Lehman College, presented live from the Bronx, New York. My name is Sanji Lopez, and I will be your host for tonight's performance. The 2019 Pacheco Festival represents a collaboration between the Lehman College Department of Music, Multimedia, Theater, and Dance, the Lehman College Multimedia Center, and BronxNet Television. Festival Director Alan Molnar greatly appreciates the efforts of everyone who has contributed to this event. This program is supported in part by a grant from the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation, Inc. As stated on the foundation's webpage, the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation has contributed to a myriad of organizations and programs dedicated to preserving, perpetuating, and educating the general public about jazz. The foundation also works to highlight the impact of Louis Armstrong on music and performance, his significance as America's greatest cultural ambassador, and as a great humanitarian. The foundation continues to contribute in an effort to perpetuate Louis Armstrong's passion for giving back to the world some of the goodness he received, all dedicated to providing services to youth, music, and the jazz community. The 2019 Pacheco Festival is greatly honored to be the recipient of the Louis Armstrong Educational Foundation support. Thank you. Victor Lin is an educator and performer from Seattle, Washington, currently residing in New York City. A jazz pianist and violinist, Victor has an undergraduate degree in music from the University of Washington and a master's degree in jazz studies from Rutgers University, where he was a student of Kenny Barron. He earned his doctorate in music education at Columbia University Teachers College, where he teaches jazz piano and jazz ensembles. In New York City, Victor has performed in a wide and eclectic variety of contexts. As a pianist, he has performed at Lincoln Center Out of Doors, Bryant Park's piano series, and recently been featured in Jack Kleinsinger's Highlights in Jazz at the Tribeca Performing Arts Center. In addition, Victor has performed at Flushing Town Hall, the Japan Society, the Blue Note, and is a regular at the well-known Knickerbocker in downtown Manhattan. As a violinist, he has been a part of Frank Vignola's Hot Club USA and the Howard Fishman Quartet. Aside from his performance credentials, Victor's primary focus has been education. He has been on the faculty of the prestigious Stanford Jazz Workshop for the past 11 years, taught at the Mark O'Connor Fiddle Camp for 3 years, and currently directs the jazz program at the Calhoun School, a private progressive education school on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Victor has always been focused on a larger scope of education with students of all ages, exploring how best to use music as a means of education about larger issues of culture, race, and society. As a first-generation American-born Taiwanese, Victor hopes that his skills as a musician and an educator will serve to raise awareness and break down perceptions of the stereotypes of all races and cultures. Tonight, Dr. Victor Lin will be joined in performance by Daniel Stein and Andrew Latona. Let's check them out.
Is this working? Hello. Okay, well, all right, so, hi, what's up? Hi, everybody. My name is Victor Lin, and despite all of the amazing long lead into the introduction to me, the reality is I'm just a guy who really enjoys working with students and really enjoys playing music, and I think more of it should happen in more places. So that would be my preferred bio, but because of academia and because of the way things are in the world, we have to list off all these credentials and whatnot. So the long and the short of it is I am a musician who really loves to play for people, but I love to teach people how to play music more so than anything, because I am, first and foremost, I'm a pianist and a violinist, and I love to play jazz. And a lot of times I honestly, I don't feel like a jazz musician, okay? Because I look in the mirror and I don't see jazz musician, okay? Because not a lot of people look like me that I know playing jazz. I often joke that I'm an Asian guy teaching black music to mostly white kids. And, you know, and the funny thing is, in this day and age, one of the things is the more honest you are with yourself, I think the more authentic you become. You know, in this day and age, I work with a lot of high school kids and a lot of college kids, and one of the things that I feel like is incredibly important, you know, when you're a student, is you want to figure out who you are, right? And who you are is really defined by what you like and what you don't like, and who you spend time with, and who it is you wind up putting your faith and trust in, as well as what it is you put your faith and trust in. And at the Calhoun School, where I've been teaching for the last 18 years, one of the things that I've realized is no matter how good a musician you are still dependent on the people around you, whether it is to watch you or listen to you, support you, or really just to share in the musical experience with you. Which is why I feel like being a teacher and being an educator, your primary importance is to enable the people around you to share that musical experience, whether that's in the theater, in the seat, or to just, hey, listen to this, or to just say, do you want to go see music together? Or if we're lucky enough to be able to play music together. Because that's the ultimate joy for me. It's like, I can play and that's cool, right? And people can clap and that's cool. But if I can enable you to play and for you to experience what it's like to play and to actually play with people, then there's an opportunity there to see human interaction at a fundamental level that is really missing from the world these days. Jazz is a brilliant vehicle for it. Almost any sort of live music is a brilliant vehicle for it, and which is why it's so important that people create spaces for this sort of thing to happen. And that's a very long way of me saying that Alan, who is running this whole thing, and for the 11th year, I don't know if you can turn your cameras over there, I'd like to recognize Alan Molnar for being one of the real lights in this sort of industry. He's one of the most selfless people that I know. He sets up these entire environments for us to just come play, and he doesn't really ask for much in return. And when you find people like that in your life, you remember. And then when you have an opportunity to do something for them, you take it. This festival is one of the best things I've seen in my life. And seeing all the students out there, I love that. I love seeing the students here. I love the fact that all of you came out here to see this, because it's actually a very rare thing. Everybody is busy. Everybody has a place to go. But you decided to come here, even if it's for an assignment or if somebody told you to come. The fact that we're here together, sharing this musical experience together, is an opportunity engineered only because somebody envisioned this thing happening, and that's Alan. And so I really want to say thank you, Dr. Molnar. Alan. If you have somebody read a lot of really nice things about me, you better be best sure that I'm going to say a lot of nice things about you, because you certainly deserve it. So, as I was saying before, I'm here, well, as I mentioned before, I have two of my favorite people and musicians in the world are with me on the stage tonight. On the guitar, the brilliant Andrew Latona. And on bass, Mr. Daniel Stein. And I don't want to talk too much, but I did want to explain a little bit about what we're doing tonight. Typically, when you play in a jazz trio, if you'll notice, we don't have a drummer. And that's because this sort of lineup it's very sort of challenging to get that rhythmic propulsion, going without somebody back there really giving it to you on the drums. But if you have somebody whose internal pulse is super strong, it doesn't matter what instrument they play. But if that person happens to play jazz guitar and happens to also play with a great deal of sort of ferocity and joy, and that person also happens to be somebody who wants to play with you, then you've got a shot at actually doing something that I feel like is really important, which is to really demonstrate how, you can play as three, as one, with one singular goal, which is to generate that sort of joy and rhythmic propulsion. And that's what we're essentially trying to do with this trio. The easiest model you could look at if you're a jazz person is the Oscar Peterson trio years ago in the 1950s. He played with the very famous trio with Ray Brown on bass and Herb Ellis on guitar. But my model actually predates that. It's just before Herb Ellis joined, because before Herb Ellis was a guitarist, and the guitarist was a guy named Barney Kessel, who was absolutely fantastic. And in listening to the recordings of hearing Barney Kessel play with Oscar Peterson, it was just lights out. Just hearing the communication between two musicians just kind of just going after it. I'm not afraid to say that that is the kind of thing that I really, really want to go for and demonstrate. In this day and age, I don't think a lot of people think of playing music as something to empower others. I'm trying to do that with all the things that I'm trying to do educationally and performance-wise. So if you'll notice, there's an awful lot of communication going on between us because we're speaking to each other, and you can probably tell a lot about us just by the way we play, but you can also tell a lot about what we're like off the stage just from the way that we actually play to each other. So that's all I'm pretty much going to say about how this trio works. We're going to just keep playing a bunch of stuff because I'm very excited about this group. We have a performance every month for the next couple of months. This is very new. This is actually the first time we're playing together as this, so I'm very, very honored to be able to do this for you. The first song we played was I Can't Give You Anything But Love. It was followed by Slow Boat to China. And now we're going to play something that one of the things that I like doing is playing stuff that isn't traditional in the jazz book. So we're going to play a little section of this song by Claude Debussy, the Impressionist composer Claude Debussy. Couple of years, he wrote a very famous piece for it's called the Children's Corner Suite. And the last thing he wrote in it is this thing called Golliwogs Cakewalk, which is kind of like meant to simulate the rhythms that he knew of, American jazz or ragtime. And so this is our take on Claude Debussy's Golliwogs Cakewalk with a couple of other references thrown in there. Yeah? We'll fix that. Oh, yes. Ready? You can turn up. Oh. That way, I want to see you. Go ahead. All right. Yeah, they'll turn you down. All right. Okay. You can come a little closer to me if you want. All right. Yes. Thank you. Yeah? You good? Stop. Here we go. All right. picture. That was a song by Oscar Peterson called L'Impossible, and that was, I think, recorded back in like 1978, I think on the Pablo label, and that was with there's a composition and that was a record that featured Niels Henning, Orsted Peterson, and Joe Pass. So, Oscar played with a lot of other guitar and drum combos, but he's also a fantastic composer, and it's really nice to play some of that music because it really works in this particular sort of trio. And before that, we played. Do you remember what did we do before that? Oh yeah, that was before that. That was Golliwogs Cakewalk, Debussy style, and Alan has notified me that we have one more tune, and so I just wanted to share that if you are a musician and if you do play music, one of the things that is really, really important is that you find opportunities to just play with each other and play for each other. It doesn't even really matter what kind of music it is, especially in this day and age, because like companies are always targeting you to just listen to stuff and download it, and it becomes a very individualistic experience, mostly targeted towards selling things to you. I don't think music is really intended to be a commercial thing, honestly. I mean, it's such a magical sort of thing that I think it's hard to not want to profit from it. But music itself is so human. It's one of those things that by interacting with it, you're able to actually connect, in a way that is much deeper than a like or a thumbs up or a heart on a screen. Just in being able to have this opportunity to play with Dan and Andrew, it's forced us to actually, run through and play things that we would never have, been given the opportunity to. And so I'm really thankful for that. I was late to this because I have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old at home, and I just discovered the joys of riding the D train. At 6 p.m. In theory it takes 24 minutes. In reality, it's probably about 100. And luckily I was able to make it here. So again, I want to say thank you again to Alan. Thank you to all you guys for coming out, and hopefully you've enjoyed the show so far. And again, on guitar, Mr. Andrew Latona. And on the bass, Mr. Daniel Stein. And I just do also want to share that Daniel actually was my first student at Calhoun 18 years ago at the Calhoun School as an 8th grader, and I somehow convinced him that playing music was it might be a viable career. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but he's done very, very well, and it's a real joy for me to actually to have somebody go from being a student to being a peer and a friend, and now somebody that I trust with my musical self, and that is something that I treasure very much. So I want to thank you guys for being able to do this. Our last thing we're going to do here is our arrangement of a Louis Jordan tune called Choo Choo Chiboogie. Louis Jordan is kind of the guy who bridges rock and roll and swing in a lot of ways. If you want to hear music that will just make you smile, just go type in Louis Jordan on Spotify. I guarantee you're going to like what you hear. This is Choo Choo Chiboogie, and thank you guys again for being a great audience, and stick around for the second act. Ready? All right. Let's do this.
What an awesome trio with such great, great chemistry. Let's give them another round of applause. Dr. Victor Lin, Daniel Stein, and Andrew Latona. It is now my pleasure to introduce the producer and artistic director of the Johnny Pacheco Latin Music and Jazz Festival at Lehman College. Alan Molnar is a recording artist, composer, vibraphonist, drummer, and percussionist who currently resides in New York, where he freelances in the music profession and holds the position of jazz lecturer here at Lehman College in the Bronx. Prior to moving to NYC, Alan was very musically active in Toronto, Canada. His experiences include many live and recorded performances in a variety of genres, including jazz, Glenn Hall, Roswell Rudd, Don Thompson, Phil Nimmons, Latin, vibrason, conch, Larry Harlow, and pop, Nelly Furtado, Jarvis Church, Stacey Orrico. Alan contributed vibraphone tracks to Nelly Furtado's Grammy and Juno award-winning albums, Whoa Nelly and Folklore. Alan Molnar is a recipient of the prestigious Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. Please welcome Mr. Alan Molnar to the festival stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we are going to be doing a number of things shortly, and I'll be picking up with the teleprompter here a little later after we play a couple of tunes. But I just wanted to have the opportunity to thank Victor Lin and his musicians today for doing such a wonderful job. Victor, by the way, is running a jazz festival at Calhoun College, or at Calhoun High School, I should say, and it's wonderful, and we've played it a couple times with our student jazz ensemble at Lehman. So it's really exciting to have wonderful colleagues like this. And speaking of wonderful colleagues, we're going to be taking a very short break right now to reset the stage with the next portion of our program, and I believe they're going to the people running the video will be showing some video of Bernie Williams playing either last year at the Pacheco Festival or at our Guitar Stars event in the spring. It's one of those two. I'm not sure which, but it's going to be great because, hey, it's Bernie Williams. So, so we'll be back in just a few minutes. Enjoy the video that's going to be rolling, and we got some fun stuff for you.